So, Lone Rider here. I just wanted to wish everybody safe and happy Independence Day if you're in the U.S. and celebrate that sort of thing. Also wanted to throw something out there. This came to my attention the other day. You may remember Colin Kaepernick, the ball player who gained notoriety for kneeling during the anthem. He apparently got upset with a new sneaker that Nike came out with that had a patriotic theme. It was supposed to be released around the holiday, in July. And he said, "Nah, I don't like that idea." They pulled it. Supposedly, this is what happened. Now I'm kind of wondering. He's one of Nike's biggest spokespeople. Nike knows kind of what he thinks about these sort of things. Why would they do a design like that? And then, unless it was just to create controversy, but maybe all it was to get people talking about the brand. I don't know. What it's really got people talking, at least some people talking and thinking about, is a really strange kind of anti-Americanism that's become more and more obvious and blatant lately in this country. And that's with people who are actually saying that the reason the sneakers should have been pulled was because they had a picture of a colonial era American flag on it. And not only they think the American flag is offensive, but in particular they don't like the colonial one because, well, at the time slavery existed. Now, slavery was awful, okay, and it was bad, but if you dislike slavery, and you should, one can conclude that it's because you value its opposite, freedom, right? And if you value freedom in the big scheme of things, in the macro picture, the founders of this country and everything that they contributed to this country and the world are irreplaceable if you value freedom. Were they perfect? No. Did they have flaws? Yes. The presence of slavery in the country was one of them. But don't think for a second that anybody who makes America about slavery, or who makes the founding fathers about slavery, or anything from the colonial period, including now apparently the Betsy Ross flag, I'd say that that's a symbol of oppression. It was a symbol of people who fought against oppression. Oh, wait, you mean they weren't entirely consistent on their own end? Well, yes, but in the big picture, what were they fighting for? What did they stand for, right? And if you really do hate slavery, like I said, as you should, then you should, raise your hands and give a round of applause to the memory of the founders of this country. Because yes, they participated in it, some of them, not all of them. Yes, it was a situation in the country they weren't able to resolve, but they bequeathed us a set of intellectual weapons in order that we could do so, that future generations could do so. Without what they set in motion, nothing else would have been possible. And the country at the time, the fledgling United States, the 13 original colonies, and the people in it, including the founders. There's a lot more to them than just a slavery issue. If that's all you really think about it, I mean, this is beyond history for dummies. This is literally the victory of ignorance over knowledge, and political doctrine over fact. And yes, we shouldn't ignore that slavery happened, but to say that because slavery was around at the time the colonial era American flag was created, that flag is a symbol of oppression, I can only ask, are you out of your effing mind? Right? Seriously. And not only that, but think about the timing. You're doing this right before the 4th of July, right before what used to be called Independence Day. And the very fact that we don't call it Independence Day as much as we now say 4th of July, yes, maybe 4th of July rolls off the tongue better, but think about it. You're avoiding mentioning the reason for the holiday, which was the founding of your own country. Again, it may just be semantics. 4th of July may sound better, but I honestly think if you think about it, when you go from Independence Day to 4th of July, what are you doing? You're taking out the meaning of the holiday. You're taking out the substance, the reason, what makes it important. It could be any other day, right? That if all it is designated by the day of the month, it could be St. Patrick's Day, Christmas, Yom Kippur, Ramadan, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? No, it's the 4th. The 4th of July is Independence Day, okay? And when we stop calling it Independence Day and start just saying, hey, it's the 4th, think about what you're doing, right? It may still refer to the same thing, but you're no longer explicitly mentioning it. And is this the logical result of that? Something that just kind of starts people, hey, it's easier to say, we don't, and the next thing you know, the actual flag of our colonial forebears is now considered offensive, right? I think ideas have power, and ideas have an impact, and words have meaning, and if we don't, refer to things as what they are, and if we don't, you know, look at when we're looking at history, if we look at like one little issue or even one big issue, like slavery, which was a big issue to be fair, but that's not the totality of everything that these people represented. Not then, not now, and won't be in the future. And I think you're cheating yourself and you're cheating anybody else that you're communicating with if you're just, your take on the founders of this country and our colonial era history is everything was bad because there was slavery. Slavery was bad, but there was a lot of good going on. People standing up for their rights. For very first time, in fact, that the divine right of kings was trumped by the rights of man, and that had never happened before in the history of the world. And that's a momentous thing. And like I said, it made everything else that happened afterwards possible, including extending the legal recognition of those rights to Americans who had previously been slaves, etc. So, I honestly think that the slavery thing at this point is a ruse. If you really have a problem with slavery, then you obviously favor freedom. And if you favor freedom, like I said, thank the founders of this country for what they did, because yes, they weren't perfect, but everything else was only possible because of what they set in motion. And their very unique and original idea that a person's life belonged not to the government or to the town or to the collective or to the king, but to himself, to live as he saw fit in pursuit of his own ends and his own happiness. And this was something new. Right? People had always believed in, off and on over the course of history, in personal freedom, but it had never been the actual basis for a government before. And wow, that's something to celebrate. So happy Independence Day, and to all those miserable, nasty, people who are, sneering at the founding fathers and grimacing when they see the flag, or saying, oh, you better pull that product. It's patriotic and that's offensive because the American flag stands for oppression, then or now. Well, you know what? Being miserable is a choice. You've made that choice. I choose to celebrate the things of value in our history. Yes, there are also bad things, and we should make note of them, but I choose not to ignore the good. I choose not to be a miserable prick. Your mileage may vary, right? So if you're one of those miserable people who's like, oh, everything about America is awful, fine. That's your thing. Me, I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to have a barbecue. I'm going to kick back and have a beer. I'm going to chill. It's Independence Day, not the 4th of July, and I'm celebrating. Right? And there's nothing you can say that's going to convince me that the flag of the people who created this country, the first, if you want to call it, free country in the earth, was a symbol of oppression, or is a symbol of oppression. There's nothing you can say that's going to convince me of that. So, again, Colin Kaepernick, all these other people, hey, if you want to be a bunch of miserable jerks, that's fine. The rest of us, we're going to enjoy our lives and have fun and get about our business. Lone Rider out.